What is going on, Twitch and YouTube? Welcome to episode 9 of the U.S.S. Cerritos tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And today we have about a 46-minute video. We're going to be continuing our work on the front end of the Starship pylons and trying to get this going because we've been taking a couple episodes working on this. But now we're going to jump right into it and really try to get it going. So we're going to add a couple of rows on each side. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want to make sure we do that to both the top and bottom on the front end for both the right side as well as now the left side. And we're slowly but surely going to start um, shaping this into more of a 3D structure. Once we get the structure in place that I'm happy with, I'm actually going to pull up a couple of screenshots of the Cerritos specifically for the engines so I can get a little bit more detail in there. And that's pretty much what we're going to be focusing on today. Trying to get as much as we can done on these engines so this way we can move on to the rest of the ship. Um, Still have a ton of work to do on this build. We haven't even built out the lower hull, but we had to do it in this order because when we build out the lower hull, we're going to actually be building it off of the pylons, the ship engines. And that's something that's kind of unique to the Cerritos, the way they have the lower hull. And that'll be coming up in the next couple of episodes. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. Shouldn't be too bad. And it looks like I took a little bit, made a little bit too far. So we're just going to add another block and then take off the 2 extra access blocks that we're adding, or that we had added before, just to bring it in by 1. Because I think what I had before was just, it was just a little bit too wide. I think taking 1 off, that'll be like a nice sweet spot right there. We should be able to get away with that. So now we just got to do the top row. Then we're going to go down and out 1 angle, and then we're going to bring that all the way down with the pillar. We're using the light gray concrete blocks for this section because it is the front end of the pylon is actually a different color. So want to make sure that we convey that in this build also. And when I pull up the screenshot, excuse me, when I pull up the screenshot later on in this episode, you'll really be able to see what I'm talking about. So right now we're going to just going to continue on wireframing, and we're only going to bring it back to this blue line right here. This is pretty much our base that we don't want to build any further back than that. Eventually, we're just going to wall that off, but anything past this is just really going to be, will pretty much just be a waste because, like I said, we'll wall that off. So at this point, we're really just doing the joints. We're going to do each corner, and then we're going to flip over to the left side, and then repeat that same process again. And just staying consistent by that rule. If I do one thing on one side, I'm going to do it again on the other if it matches. This will definitely save us from making a couple of mistakes. But this part of the build, this really isn't too difficult. The front end of the shape of the engines, it's not too hard to pull off. Now, it's not going to be this solid shape that we have right now. We're going to shape the front end of it a little bit more. But this is a nice base to start off of. All right, perfect. So that's the same length as the other ones. We have 1 more to do, and then we're going to flip over to the left side and bang that out also. All right, we're looking good. Now we're going to do this for the left side, and I'm recording this audio live tonight. for tomorrow's YouTube video. If you're watching me on Twitch tonight, I definitely appreciate that. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube at youtube.com/c/zero elite, where you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes Tuesdays through Fridays. They usually drop around 10 a.m. Between 9 and 10 a.m. And if you're looking to catch my live streams of Minecraft, I usually do that Monday through Thursday between 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm doing a little bit late tonight, and I apologize for that. It's because I did not start the editing on this video until pretty late because Cyberpunk actually came out, and I've been streaming that. So if you're interested in checking me out on there, please follow me for that as well. I've been going through the campaign. I put about 3 hours in earlier, but I wanted to make sure I got off and got this done because I'm really trying to get this build out um, and completed within the shortest time possible without sacrificing any quality. But I think we're going to be okay. We were rocking here. We're getting the left side done. We've only got a couple more rows to do now. We just got this right side, and we're going to zoom out and take a look at our work. You'll definitely hear me say that from time to time that, I want to zoom out and look at it because, especially when you're building something like this from scratch, there's no blueprint to go off of. So I'm literally just looking at a picture and then winging it, trying to come up with a shape that looks good. And a lot of times I'm putting stuff down, I don't know 100% if it's going to look good, but the best thing that you can do is throw something down and then take a look at it. And that's kind of what we got going on right now. I'm going to have to make some corrections here. It looks like I built the left one just a little bit different from the right one, and you can easily call that out because it goes in by 3 on this side, and then on this side it goes in by 2. So what we're going to do to fix that is now we're just going to add another row on the right side. This is definitely one of the reasons why I go by that rule. If you do one thing on one side, do it on the other, because that will help you from saving a mistake. If that doesn't catch it, zooming out and checking your work will. So now you can see that step playing in action and really applying it to this build. This has now saved me a little bit of work. I could have easily have overlooked this and just kept on going, um, but I was able to catch that early. So pretty happy about that. We're gonna get this last row done, and then we're gonna zoom out and take a look what I want to do now. Let's fill in just the lip here. We're gonna get rid of this access right here because we don't need it, not for right now. Eventually we're gonna close all that in, but I'm trying just to get visualize the shape when we zoom out and take a look at it. I think that's gonna work out pretty good. It's got the right length because that front piece that sits on the engine, it doesn't come out super far. But I think that's going to work. So let's get rid of some of our build lines here. We don't need this anymore. We haven't actually needed this for a while, but I've just kind of been lazy and haven't gotten rid of it. But it's getting to the point now where I want to be able to fly around and fully look at this thing without anything in the way, so we don't need that. So let's get that out of there. Eventually we can actually get rid of that blue block that's actually built into the hull, but I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. If you have that on your build and you want to take it off, feel free to go ahead and do that now because you don't need it. All right, and we're jamming. Got a couple more rows to do. I'm going to whiz a little bit forward here from where I completed getting rid of those. Now you can see I'm just getting rid of the blue on the inside here, but make sure not to delete your blue line, or excuse me, your blue pillar in the back. That's your guideline for where your wall needs to be. This blue circle going around the engine, we're going to get rid of it. We're just going to be replacing that with a white concrete block. We're just getting to a point where we're starting to finish up the shape of the engines. We haven't even done all the detailing yet. Now, the Cerritos doesn't have a ton of detailing in the engines, but it has a few characteristics that makes it unique to the ship. Um, Especially how the blue, it's got like a blue streak, a double blue pinstripe streak going down each side. But I don't think we're going to have enough time to get that done in today's episode. We're pretty much going to be focusing on getting the front end built up so that we can have this shape completed. So when we go in to add in some of the detailing, we can just fly through that. I don't want to skip any more ahead to get ahead of ourselves because right after this, we're going to go right back into the build. We've just got one more side to do, and then we're going to get right back into it. But while this is going, if you're enjoying this episode, if you can please help me out and hit that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate that if you're watching me on Twitch. And if you're watching me on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it as well. And sound off in the comment section. Definitely let me know what ships you would like to see me build on my YouTube and Twitch channel. If you have any questions regarding this build, let me know in the comments section. But man, now I want to talk about this a little bit more. Now you can see with her guidelines out of the way, you can really look at her ship. She's really starting to come together. Um, Man, she's looking good. Sorry, it looks like we're gonna start filling this in just a little bit. So I'm gonna start fast forwarding this to once we have this completely filled in. So this way we're not wasting any time. So you want to do that on your build as well. Make sure just to stay within your guideline of your wireframe. Pretty simple, where we're just filling in the holes. All right. So we're about caught up. Let's go outside and then we're going to add in the front end now of our engine. We've completed filling in the sides completely for both the left side and right side engine. And I'm literally just adding 2 rows out on the lower lip and I'm going with the cut. So we're going to be adding 2 rows of blocks going out. And want to make sure that you mind your cut and delete any access. So this way we maintain the current shape that we're going for. Because you don't want to build a shape that goes off of what we currently have because then it's going to look out of place. That's one of the reasons why when I'm building, um, I said I have a pattern that I go by, and it's really just following the cuts in most cases, not every case. There's some times where I'll deviate away from that, but I found that by staying with the cut most of the time, you can end up getting a better shape than what you might get otherwise, at least with a starship. So now we've thickened up the right side engine. Now we're going to do the same thing to the front end of the left side engine. We're really getting to a point where we can actually add a face to it and close it off. But it needs to have a little bit of a transition to the front end of it because it's not completely flat. And you'll see what I mean in a few moments when I pull up the screenshot of the engines. And we're definitely rocking it. We got I've gone in through the first 18 minutes, and we still got about 27 minutes left in this build. You can really start to visualize how these engines are going to start to turn out. Um, I think they're really starting to come together pretty good. And don't worry about being able to see all the way in on the sides and stuff. When we put the wall in on the back end of this piece that we added in, you won't even be able to see that. So right now we are on the front end, right along the cut, and you can see that I want to pause this just for a moment. We're pretty much about to uh, delete a row, and we're going to be making essentially this cut line right here. You can see this piece, it's not super big. You see I've gone 2 blocks back before the cut. So on the second block back before the cut, that's where we're going to start taking out a full row going all the way around. And then we'll come back in again with red concrete and fill that in. Now, I will say the front end of the engines, I'm not 100% set on. What I end up with by the end of the video, I'm pretty happy with, but I'm not dead set on it. I think at one point or another, we're probably going to make another pass at the engines just to see if I can get them a little bit better. Um, but I don't know. That's only if I can come up with a better design without just messing with it. But we'll see how that goes. But I definitely I want to try to come up with something that's a little bit nicer. Not that what I have doesn't look good, but I'm not completely happy with it. Put it that way. So now we're just going back in the row that we just deleted, and we're just replacing that now with red concrete. We can start to visualize a little bit more about how this front end is going to come together. The blocks I'm deleting now, I'm now building out this red strip right here. And we're going 2 blocks back. So on the third block, we're counting 11 back, deleting 11 back, and then we're just going to fill that in. Now we're going to do the same thing on this left side. We're going to go 2 back, and on the third one, we're going to count out to 11. You see it's only got one stripe at the very bottom, so that line here on each side is not repeated below, it's only one. And that row that I added on the sides, that was really unnecessary. Really only had to go down from the middle here and then count 2 back, and on the third one, start deleting. Yeah, see, this was the double blue pinstripe that I was talking about on the side here. She's looking pretty good. We're getting there. But I'm telling you, the front end of these engines, it's definitely going to be a challenge to get them right. I don't think I'm going to ever end up on anything that I'm going to be completely happy with, but like I was saying earlier, I really do. I feel like we're at one point or another going to pan back to the engines and try to do like another once over again. So now we're going to go in with a cut again and add another layer to try to maybe add the progression of this angle right here. Because right now, with it only going down by 2, it doesn't really cut down at an angle like it's supposed to. And we're going to delete each corner because I don't want like just like a straight square on there, because that'll look, I think that'll mess up the look of the build. But what we can do to get around that is we can just do a light gray concrete block right behind it. We're doing the 2 more corners on this side, and I think that'll look pretty good. And we'll do the same thing on the left side, and then we'll zoom out and take a look at it. Yeah, that looks better. And again, that's not perfect, but it's starting to get to where we need it to be. And if I can give you any, just one piece of advice with shipbuilding, just throw something down because um, eventually messing with it and like rebuilding parts, altering things here, a little bit here, a little bit there, eventually you'll get it to where you want it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I made changes to my Star Trek Beyond Enterprise A. I mean, I must have altered sections of that ship at least like 10 times. But that was, just again going back, making little changes here, making little changes there, and as I went with that, I got pretty good at doing at shipbuilding. So, um, I definitely take that to heart when I'm doing stuff like this, even on new builds. I might not do it nearly as many times, but basically what I'm saying is don't be afraid to play with it because if you really get in a situation where it's like, oh well, I want to alter it, but I don't want to lose my work. Make copies of your work. Make a couple of extra copies. That's what I do. I can't tell you how many save files I have for this world alone. But needless to say, it's more than enough that if anything happened to like the first 10 backups, I've got another 20 behind that to back those up. And I just basically what I do at different points, I just keep saving my game. So if I decide that I want to experiment and maybe make a change and change an entire section on a ship, I'll just make a double save. And if I like it, cool. If not, I'll just delete it and just go back to the previous save. But the changes that we're making right now, they're kind of minor, so they're not super significant. So it's not going to warrant making an extra save. So I'm just going to run with it. But it's definitely going to take a little bit of finagling here to get exactly where I want to get it at. That doesn't look too bad. Because again, that's going to be the other thing too. I say this all the time that not everything translates perfectly over into Minecraft. And when that happens, you just gotta try to make changes where you have to make it work. And this is just one of those cases because at the end of the day, we're using blocks, so we can't get this perfect curve that we need to get. So we got to make some substitutes here and there until we get to a point where, it looks at least close enough that we're happy with it. And you can see that I'm just doing it very conservatively, just making a couple of changes here, a couple of changes there, zooming out, seeing how it looks. If it looks good, cool. If not, I go back and change it. And see, that doesn't look horrible. It looks pretty good. What it's missing though is this big piece right here. And that's what's going to mess with me the most. So we're going to make a couple adjustments. Let's get rid of this red line that we added. We're going to do the both to the right side and the left side. I'd rather just do this now rather than doing it later. But by the time that we're done with this episode, we should have something that looks pretty good. What I think we're going to ultimately end up doing is moving this red line back uh, one, in other words, or into the structure one. So this way it's not flush with the outer hull, it's actually in one. So there'll actually be a nice lip. And what that's going to do is it's going to give some texture to the engine because you can even see it on this part right here. It goes in one. So there's a little bit of a gap of a lip there going all the way around. See, that doesn't look bad. We might have to slightly adjust the front end in front of this now because of this change. I think um, because it looks weird when we go outside. I'll show you, but like the block right here, this row, it looks weird from the outside now because it's literally just one row of blocks going all the way around. So that piece looks very skinny, and I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, so what we're going to do is just thicken this whole piece up. We're going to bring this forward by 2, which I don't think is going to hurt it any. Um, I think that we can actually get away with doing this because ultimately we're going to end up bringing the whole thing forward by 1 or 2. So we're making it a little bit longer because I feel that as of right now, my engines are slightly short in the front. But now that we're adding just a little bit more structure to them in the front, I think that that's going to fix up that issue really nicely. Sorry, before we get too far, let's do the same thing on this left side now. So by the time that we're done, both sides are at least matching up. You can see sometimes I like to switch it up in the order that I'm building, so I'm just going one row all the way around, and then I'm going to do another row. Okay, so we got to bring that out by 1 more. All right, we've got a couple more sides to do, and then we'll be caught up now with the other side. And I kind of messed up there a little bit. There we go. See, this is one of the reasons that we just want to take your time when you're doing this. I've got all the time in the world, but what's messing me up is that I'm rushing because I'm trying to get this done in a reasonable amount of time. Because when I did a pretty good job while I was doing this build. I really didn't rush through it too much, but at the same time, I built this in a pretty short period of time. I did it in in just shy of 2 weeks, which I mean really isn't bad when you think about it. When you're building this solo, that's not too bad. But that's not the interior include. Well, not all of it. Within that 2 week period, I also built out the corridors because I had to add those in before I closed in the hull. That's one of my rules that I go by because when you try, well, at least in the saucer section, when you try to add in your hulls after the fact, it can become, or when you try to add in your corridors after you add the hull, is what I meant to say, it can become a nightmare. And at this point, I'm not so worried about the color with that red. I'm just worried about the shape. We're going to make changes here and there. So I'm just thickening up this row now. We'll go back when I'm set on the shape of it, and then I'll fix the red so it matches up. But again, right now, just trying to make sure that the shape of it looks right. Let's see, if I do that, that sucks now because we're going back to a square, and I don't want to do that. I think I'm going to do the same thing on the left side for now, but ultimately, we're not going to settle on that. We're just adding another row of red going along with the current pattern because it looks like this row or this piece transitions with the pylon. So I'm trying to mimic that a little bit here and seeing how it looks. If I'm not set on it, that's okay. I could always go back and change it because this is such a minor change. It only takes a couple of minutes to do it. Only downside when you look at it from the front, you can't see these pieces here. So that's definitely one of the challenges that we're presented with right now because again, transitioning this into the block world. So there's going to have to be a compromise somewhere. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet, but we're going to get there. Let's try taking off a row from just the very front. Because this is messing us up anyway. It's turning into a square, and we don't want a square on the front end. Don't worry about the color pattern, just worried about the shape at this point. We're going to close this up. And I'm just filling in all the blocks this way. When we go back around, clean it up, I'm just going with the cut. Oh, I messed up. Let's go back to light gray concrete. And what I'm going to have in just a second, this is how the front end is supposed to look. I mean, that's right in there with the picture. So we're going to have to figure that out just a little bit here, how to add in those pieces on the side and have it look right. But we're slowly getting there. She's starting to come to life just a little bit more. And that's, I think, one of the most exciting points when you're doing these builds, when it starts looking like the picture, even though you're using blocks. I mean, that's one of the things I love about Minecraft. I appreciate the challenge in this game of trying to transition, these ships into the block world. It's can be very challenging and fun. Let's take off this back row. We just got to do the top and I think the right side, and then we'll be done. I also got to switch that middle block to red. We got to do this left or side right here. All right. So from the front, that's what we're going for sure. So at this point, just trying to figure out what my next move is going to be. Try to make this match up a little bit more. We're like 70% there from where we really need to be. We got a couple of detail points that we're missing. I really want to try to figure out how to add these in without drastically changing the current design of the ship build. And I think we had this before, just the one row, but I don't think that's going to cut it. The placement of them might be fine, but I think what it needs is at least 2 rows going back. In order to do that, this row of red that cuts in, we'd have to move that back. So we'd essentially have to move all this detail back by 1. All right, now we just got to do the bottom. And like that looks good, but the only problem with it is that it doesn't have that curve still in the front. There might not be that much that we can do about it, but still, we're gonna work on it for about 5 more minutes to see what else that we can do within that period. But again, I feel we're gonna be coming back and trying to add in a little bit more detail than what we currently have. I'm trying to add another row of red in the front, but within a different pattern before, instead of it just being a block. So I'm just following the cut line to avoid that. And that might work out pretty good. That extra row, I mean, it does help it. I don't know. You see, so we're going to move this red stripe back by 1. So we're going to delete another row of light gray concrete. And then we'll move the red stripe back, and then we'll add another row of light gray concrete where the old stripe is. I think making those changes will be a step in the right direction for sure. All right, so while we're in here now, we're just going to add the row of red going back by 1. Let's go outside so we're not stuck inside. Now we're going to go back to light gray, and now we're going to fill in just one row going all the way around. All right, that looks pretty good. Before we make any more changes, let's hop over to the right side engine and do the same thing that we just did. Oh, I messed up there. Let's get rid of that. All right, so we're in good shape. Now we're just going to fill in this front row, and then we're going to see how this looks. Now these other blocks I was telling you about, we're going to bring those back again by 1 to make them to look a little bit bigger than they currently are. Hopefully, we can get away with this by itself, and we don't have to make any more changes. If it doesn't look good, I'll come back and we'll cross that bridge once we get there. But this is probably going to be one of the last changes that we make into today's episode. You see that looks pretty good. And we gotta do the corners on this underside too. Get the fully match up. We got the top row. Could even make the sides slightly bigger. All right, let's zoom out and take a look at that. It's definitely getting there, step in the right direction, really starting to look like the engines. I'm pretty happy with that. Very happy with the progress that we're making. I think we will come back and make one more pass, and I'm trying to make them look a little bit better, but it's about the shape that it's going to be, I think. Might not be able to do too much better than that, but I still want to try. But I think that's going to wrap us up today. We've gotten a lot done. We shot through 46 minutes like it was nothing. Um, I really hope that you enjoyed this content today. And if you did, if you can please help me out. If you're on Twitch, follow me. If you're on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. I can't thank you enough for that. And you can follow me on Twitch TV/Zero Elite. And you can always catch my new Twitch streams Sundays through Thursdays typically between 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern. On YouTube, you can always catch my new Starship Evo builds Mondays and my Minecraft videos Tuesdays through Fridays, and they drop around 10 a.m. Eastern. If you have any questions regarding this tutorial, please drop a comment below, or any ship builds you might want to see me do. Doesn't necessarily even have to be ship builds. Could be anything nerd related in general. If there's any questions regarding this build, maybe I'm not getting specific enough, drop a comment below. Let me know in the comment section. Usually pretty responsive. Try to see what I can do to help you out. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. Hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you in the next video.